Hello, I'm Ron Clark. Again, I'm the editor of LOMA's Resource Magazine. We welcome everyone to our webinar on life insurance illustrations. We're presenting this webinar in partnership with EquiSoft and Novarica. And we're very pleased to hold this webinar for our LOMA members since it deals with an important subject for the insurance industry. As individual life insurers look for ways to better compete on customer experience, illustration tools have become more important in the sales process. EquiSoft and Novarica recently partnered on a survey about carriers' illustration system capabilities. Insurer CIOs and other IT leaders were asked about challenges and limitations of their current illustration system and their perspective of what is important in a replacement system. Now, EquiSoft specializes in business services and solutions that address the needs of the insurance industry. EquiSoft develops and markets insurance elements to support sales illustrations and quoting, electronic application, financial planning, and asset allocation on both web-based and mobile platforms. Thus, they provide solutions that span the complete value chain for life and annuity carriers. EquiSoft is also Oracle's largest and most experienced integration partner for the Oracle Insurance Policy Administration solution. EquiSoft has extensive experience in processes within new business, underwriting, compensation management, policy service, and claims management. And Novarica is a consulting service firm focused on vendor selection, custom benchmarking, project assurance, and IT strategy. They leverage their proven methodologies, extensive knowledge base, and broad network to rapidly deliver actionable insights and recommendations. Novarica's research covers trends, benchmarks, best practices, case studies, and vendor solutions. They draw on the expertise of their senior team and relationships with nearly 400 Insurer CIO members of the Novarica Insurance Technology Research Council. Our speakers today will be Tom Benton, Vice President of Research and Consulting at Novarica, and Dennis Mason, Analyst Program at EquiSoft. Tom Benton was the Senior IT Executive on this project, and he'll present the results of the survey in the first part of the webinar. And then Dennis Mason will follow up with an introduction of EquiSoft's illustrations and electronic application solution insurance elements. And then at the end, we should have time for some questions. So now I'm going to turn it over to Tom, and he's going to get us started.
Thank you, Ron. My name is Tom Benton. I've been with Novarica for 3 years, mainly focused on life insurance technologies and trends, along with emerging technologies and customer experience. Prior to Novarica, I was CIO at Navy Mutual, where I was responsible for a complete transformation of the core systems, and I had many of the same issues as CIOs face today with legacy systems, customer experience problems, and upgrading capabilities like illustrations. Ron talked a little bit about Novarica, but we are a research and advisory firm focused on insurance technology for North American insurers, meaning North America being the U.S. and Canada. And we publish, one thing you did mention was that we publish research on solutions and IT strategy through our research council, and we leverage our personal experience as CIOs and CTOs in the industry for our project-based consulting. Well, in today's webinar, we'll be talking about individual life insurer illustration challenges and opportunities. Individual life is a competitive market where insurers face increasing challenges with providing products and product features and need to provide them with faster speed to market than in the past. They're increasingly using BI and analytics for marketing to better target potential customers and to understand their current policyholders to retain them and to cross-sell other insurance products. They also are getting pressure from their distribution networks and customers to provide better customer experience. Here, insurers are being compared more and more with banks and brokers who provide excellent online service capabilities, along with internet user experience giants like Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple, and customer-focused companies like Starbucks and Southwest Airlines. Generally, when customers interact with these companies, they have great experiences, but they find that when they interact with their insurer, it's not so great. So customer patience is in getting the information they need is decreasing, while technology demands for better experience are increasing. To address these challenges, we're seeing more interest by insurers in replacing legacy core systems like policy admin, billing and claim systems, and they want to replace them with configurable rules-based systems that can better support product development and data access. We also see insurers investing in updated customer-facing systems, which include portals, point-of-sale, and illustration systems, our topic today. As Ron mentioned, EquiSoft and Novarica recently worked together as part of Novarica's Research Partner Program to develop a survey of individual life insurers to get their perspective on illustration system challenges and what they consider important for replacement systems. The report is currently available on EquiSoft's website. We asked these CIOs about their interest in replacing their current illustration system. Most said they plan to replace it in the next 1 to 3+ years. All the carriers are currently using homegrown solutions except 2 of the 3 that are not planning a replacement. So they had already done some sort of replacement in the last few years. It's clear that many insurers want to move from an in-house solution to a vendor-provided solution. Their interest in replacement is in part due to limitations of capabilities in their current systems. The top 2 limitations were integration and lack of adequate reporting. One of the common complaints was about the bottleneck of updating illustration systems for new products, which significantly affects speed to market for some insurers. Platform and technology issues were the key reasons for these issues, and they were mentioned along with the other limitations. Note that the lack of product support scored very low as a limitation, but that's most certainly due to the fact that most of these carriers are supporting in-house solutions, which should presumably do a good job supporting the products that they have in place. When we asked about the type of solution they were interested in using for replacement, carriers had a strong preference for a standalone vendor solution. Most of the carriers we surveyed scored this as a 4 or 5 out of 5 in terms of importance. There's also interest in software as a service or hosted solutions, and less so in using illustration capabilities from a policy admin suite. In another question, carriers also showed a strong preference for, or a strong interest in making sure they had good vendor support. In addition to addressing limitations in current systems, carriers were interested in improving customer experience as a driver for replacement. All but one listed customer experience is very important or critical, so scores of 4 or 5 out of 5. They see illustration replacement also as improving product speed to market by decreasing complexity of illustration changes, and they want illustration tools that can be more available and better integrated with their other customer-facing systems. When we asked about mobile technologies, for the use of mobile technologies, we've seen these grow in both consumer technology and with distribution networks of carriers. And carriers are seeing the importance of providing these kind of capabilities for all their solutions. For illustrations, laptop and tablet versions are considered most important, with disconnected mode important mostly for laptops. Many carriers are finding that field agents need the ability to present product and policy information to customers while they have limited access to the internet. So disconnected mode presents a significant challenge to them. There are lots of technical challenges with providing disconnected mode, and some carriers are finding that difficult to do in an in-house solution. So carriers are looking for vendor solutions to enable the capability. As you see here, smartphone capabilities were not seen as important. That's probably since the detail of illustrations will require larger screens than even on the largest smartphones available today, even though, as we all know, they're getting larger and larger all the time. But it was seen as not as important as tablets and laptops. And by the way, almost all the respondents considered the various platforms equally important: iOS, Android, and Windows platforms. Also important to carriers is the usability of the solution. All the surveyed carriers ranked the top 2 items here as 4 or 5, so very important as considerations in the new system. The quoting and illustration capabilities, which is the main functionality of the system, along with having a great user interface, are essential in a new system for these carriers, along with good product support. For technical considerations, carriers want technology that allows flexibility for reporting and to use leading technology platforms and graphics capabilities. The technology considerations support carrier needs to better integrate illustration systems along with enhancing capabilities for product updates and keeping illustration systems current for regulatory requirements. Improved illustration capabilities are seen by carriers as a differentiator in the market first of all, for consumers, but also mainly for agency office staff and independent agents. Overall, having improved illustration capabilities was seen as a significant way to improve sales for carrier products in a competitive market. Carriers are expecting to prioritize spending on customer-facing systems in their 2016 budgets. Almost all of the ones we surveyed were expecting to increase spending for portals and point-of-sale systems, and over half expected to increase budget for illustration systems. Other areas that carriers often mention as priorities, items like core system replacements and systems for managing distribution networks, had less carriers that expected increases. Here we note that the Canadian carriers we had Canadian and U.S. carriers in the survey, And almost all of the Canadian carriers expect to increase their budget significantly for illustrations. And this is likely due to new tax regulation for 2016 related to exempt testing. This will affect illustration calculations and is a driver for a lot of Canadian carriers in changing their systems. And regulatory changes can also be an issue for U.S. carriers, but for them, the main driver appears to be upgraded capabilities for better customer service. As we look at the key priorities for illustration systems, the main theme is improved customer experience. Carriers want improved quoting and illustration capabilities along with systems that are highly usable and better support their product lines. Mobile capabilities are important with interest in disconnected mode to better enable field agents. At the bottom of the slide is a quote from one of the CIOs surveyed. He said, "I think that our needs will be constantly evolving. Our illustration system needs to be flexible enough to adapt accordingly, and especially if any legislative changes impact our business." This summed up the general perspective of the CIOs that we surveyed and that I talked with. The flexibility to meet future needs is important, future needs like regulatory changes, and that flexibility is really what they want in their systems. In conclusion then, carriers have a strong interest in replacing their existing in-house illustration solutions. Reporting and integration are key issues, along with improved quoting capabilities when considering these systems. Customer experience is a theme for what's driving the need for these replacements. And mobile capabilities are growing in importance. Carriers are looking to vendors for help with disconnected mode solutions. Overall, illustration solutions are considered important to customer experience and as differentiators for their distribution networks. Illustrations will be an important part of carrier 2016 budgets and plans. I wanted to move ahead to this slide and just mention that I'm certainly available for any questions that come up later after this seminar. We're going to have a Q&A at the end of the webinar. And please feel free to contact me. We have other reports available from Novarica, as you can see. But at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Dennis for his comments from EquiSoft.
Thank you, Tom, for sharing the insights. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending today's presentation. My name is Dennis Mason, and I work for EquiSoft as a configuration consultant. I've worked with the EquiSoft and Oracle solutions for over 10 years, and like Tom, I've been in the industry for some time now. Over the course of my 30-plus years, I've experienced these challenges both from the perspective of insurer and solution provider, so I can relate to the findings. At this time, I'd like to provide you with an overview of EquiSoft Insurance Elements. I will be focusing on the key features of the illustration module, in particular, how seamlessly it integrates with other illustration-related tools, whether they be from EquiSoft's offerings or those you may already have in use. We at EquiSoft believe Insurance Elements offers insurers the best illustration and electronic application solution in order to transform their sales process for the benefit of both advisors and consumers. I'll be covering the following topics, which speak directly to Novarica's survey findings. Insurers' technology concerns around integration and modern architecture, the flexibility and options provided by Insurance Elements' unique distribution model, availability and usability of illustration reporting and graphics, the need to enhance overall customer experience, and finally, Insurance Elements' roadmap for future enhancements. As illustrated earlier, the majority of survey respondents ranked a standalone solution, yet still integrated with sales tools, at a 4 or 5 out of a possible 5. This is clearly a key consideration for insurers who are interested in replacing an illustration system. This graphic shows how EquiSoft Insurance Elements clearly aligns with the strategy. Illustration is developed as a self-contained module. However, it is available as part of a pre-integrated end-to-end offering. EquiSoft's Insurance Elements includes both the illustration module and an optional electronic application module. When deployed and used together, they form a solid foundation for straight-through processing. Client and product data is imported from illustration directly into electronic application. It can then be digitally or audibly signed and otherwise readied for submission to the insurer. Insurance Elements provides pre-integrated support for other tools, both upstream and down, to further enable straight-through processing. On the front end, EquiSoft's Wealth Elements supports comprehensive financial needs analysis. The data data captured from modeling is then readily available for import directly into insurance elements. Illustration can also connect with externally developed components. Currently, these include Oracle Sales Cloud and Salesforce CRM. On the back end, Insurance Elements supports seamless transmission of electronic application data to Oracle's Insurance Policy Administration Platform, sometimes referred to as OIPA. It's important to point out that the Oracle Insurance Calculation Engine is accessible and shared across platforms. This ensures that illustration, electronic application, and when applicable, OIPA itself, all apply the same product underwriting rules and return the same calculated quote values. So you may be thinking, wow, that's a great story. But we're not in a position to do a wholesale platform upgrade. We hear you. And the good news is, you don't have to. Lack of integration capabilities also topped insurers' list of current limitations per Novarica's findings. Illustration module may be implemented independently from the rest of the suite. In other words, it can be deployed on a standalone basis. Fortunately, however, standalone does not mean integration challenged when it comes to insurance elements. To the contrary, it is designed to plug and play readily with other components and externally based platforms. Componentized architecture enables illustration as a standalone module. Configuration of the user interface and the desired illustration outputs is segregated from the calculations and product rules engine. Some specific benefits of this design include a single illustration user interface solution that can front multiple platforms where they exist. The quick ramp-up of new product illustrations using the included accelerators. The ability for insurers to do their own configuration, all of which ultimately promotes the insurer's autonomy in adding and maintaining their products. Insurance Elements was developed using the Accord-based model. This further facilitates its use with other systems in the wild. That is the case even when running in disconnected mode on a local instance of the application. Product selection point of entry allows for staged illustration upgrades. This provides the opportunity for rollout of a specific product or product line. Many insurers today are instead faced with taking a wholesale or so-called big bang approach to product rollout when standing up a new platform. The componentization of core logic also enables timely product upgrades, and the provision of multiple integration points, which each support implementation-specific mappings, maintains the integrity and, when applicable, the propriety of an insurer's legacy integrations. Now let's take a look at Insurance Elements' unique distribution model. Most insurers indicated their desire to move to a connected online model. The reality, however, is that many still must rely on a local or disconnected illustration tool in order to ensure access and reliability under a variety of circumstances. For example, even in this day and age, some meeting locations may not have hotspot or Wi-Fi access. The ever-growing need for network security can also make it awkward and in some cases nearly impossible to connect even when there is a secured network available. Insurance Elements solves this dilemma. Its architecture offers the ability to run the exact same illustrations, whether online or in disconnected mode. All of the required definitions are configured and tested once. They are then made available online via the web version. Finally, they can be pushed out as needed to any devices which do or may need to run illustrations in disconnected mode. As a reminder, that same calculation engine and configured rules are invoked across all access methods. This holds true all the way down to a quick quote version available for smartphones. Here again, Insurance Elements breaks the traditional all-or-nothing mold. In this case, it is by supporting product illustration accessibility at the product level. Specifically, the desired access methods, web, disconnected, smartphone, tablet, etc., are individually enabled for each product to achieve the desired mix. As Tom alluded to earlier, let's face it, some products simply may not make sense as a quick quote offering on a smartphone. With insurance elements, an insurer can enable only those products which do make sense. Not surprisingly, another key finding is that current reporting capabilities are woefully inadequate. In addition, flexibility in designing and generating graphics for both UI and reporting is identified as a top technology consideration for selecting a new illustration tool. Insurance Elements illustration provides a dedicated embedded graphical reporting component and reporting designer with unlimited potential. In fact, it includes the same Web UI toolset used by familiar names like Yahoo, Visa, Facebook, Twitter, MasterCard, and others. This toolset enables full illustration support for advanced scenarios including withdrawals, loans, and deposits, multi-life and multi-coverage offerings, dynamic graphs with side-by-side product comparisons, configurable summary and detailed results, and multilingual display and output as applicable. Another key feature of Insurance Elements is that its illustration reports can be exposed to and therefore generated by external systems. This enables the insurer to extend consistent branding, format, and results across platforms when required. This slide shows one example of an actual graphical report from the illustration tool. It and many others are readily available and customizable, both for viewing within the UI and export to Microsoft Excel for use as hard copy reference. Lastly, and certainly not least importantly, enhanced or improved customer experience for illustrations is a recurring theme throughout the report. Not unlike the majority of us today, advisors are themselves consumers at large. For the most part, we have all come to expect easy to navigate and use websites. Many of us even rely on mobile applications as part of our everyday existence. The world of insurance product illustration tools, however, has not kept pace with the world of our collective everyday life. This disparity, at a minimum, can be distracting to those of us who remember life before technology. However, for the generations currently entering the market, both as advisors and consumers of insurance products, it is unfathomable. Insurance Elements has successfully severed the ties to the outdated and restrictive tools. As mentioned earlier, a latest generation web-based design toolset replaces old school tools and their hard-coded screens. Through these leading technologies and tools, Insurance Elements enables rapid UI configuration. This, in turn, empowers insurers to configure UI variations by product, apply branding at the insurer and or agency levels, vary their UI based on user login credentials, and even to set default preferences and values at the product and user levels. Products are designed and organized logically based on their features and offerings. The emphasis is on ease of use throughout. This starts with the insurer's initial product design and carries all the way through illustration delivery and reporting by an advisor. Another EquiSoft client commissioned its own illustration tool survey. This was done in anticipation of their Insurance Elements implementation. The goal was to ensure focus on the appropriate features and key advisor priorities. A dedicated user experience team was engaged, and feedback was gathered from a select group of advisors. They reached similar conclusions to those shared today per Novarica's findings. The most prominent takeaway is a familiar one: the need to improve usability, ease of use, and more intuitive design. Their efforts in partnership with EquiSoft resulted in deployment of a functional yet intuitive and user-friendly solution. Many of the desired capabilities were already supported by Insurance Elements out of the box. However, it did result in addition of a new feature. Illustration now offers pre-built models and templates. These accelerators can be especially helpful, providing a head start for the more complex products such as an indexed universal life or a guaranteed income deferred annuity. This slide shows one example of a configured UI input page from the illustration tool. And as a reminder, all of the configuration for branding, customization of forms, reporting, and UI per product offering is done without requiring any modification to Insurance Elements source code. Before wrapping up, I'd like to touch briefly on the roadmap for future enhancements to Insurance Elements illustration module. At this time, EquiSoft expects to provide even greater and improved seamless integration with a wider array of CRM solutions, as well as agency back-office tools. We are also looking to provide an expanded offering of natively designed tablet-based and mobile applications. These offerings will be facilitated by our continued use of latest technology toolsets and further investment in R&D around repackaging the standard web solution as native applications for mobile and tablet use. And of course, emphasis is maintained on keeping the single code base which supports deployment across any and all platforms. This concludes the Insurance Elements illustration overview. Thank you again for your time today. And at this point, I'm going to hand things back over to Ron Clark for some questions and answers.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis, and thank you, Tom. We've got a few questions that have come in here, so I'll start off with this one. I believe this one is directed to Dennis. Around the mobile capabilities slide, the Internet is becoming more available, but yet a disconnected version seems to stay an important factor. How could you explain this in the current market?
As we touched on in the presentation, the need for the locally installed versions is maintained, is the predominant form that is out there. It's what's most familiar. And even though that the bandwidth and the speed of Internet access is constantly improving and the accessibility and breadth of network coverages is expanding, there are still secluded areas and situations where the connectivity is just not supported. So combined with the current experience of being able to run the local illustrations, it's hard to change, it's hard to give up until there's the more reliable solution. We see it as being a staple going forward.
Okay. This next question is, illustration systems today are geared for advisors and insurance knowledgeable individuals. We're starting to see a shift in giving those capabilities to consumers. And how does that affect the potential solution and requirements in that aspect? I think that's for you, Dennis.
Okay. I would say that this is in part, why there is such an emphasis on the ease of usability and the variety and adaptability of the user interface. It's become so important. This is coming up as a number 2 consideration, I believe, if I remember the report information. So even if you're not offering illustration and quote capabilities consumer direct today, it's very likely that at some point, some segment within your market is going to demand it, and we feel that we have the tools, and we think it's coming, and we would rather see you be prepared and ready for it than not able to adapt.
Okay. Hence the focus from insurers to offer customer portals and agent portals. How does illustration capabilities relate to this? Dennis, I think that's for you.
Okay, thank you. As insurers are adapting to the new digital world slowly, as we acknowledged earlier, we're trying to inject new levels of modernization, and this multi-channel experience is, it's one of the buzzwords, right? It's everywhere, and we've kept our industry head in the sand for some time now with respect to some of these modernization issues, but with the demographics of these generations that are now entering the marketplace, it's hard to get attention sometimes we see commercials on TV where everybody's at the table and they're all face down on their mobile devices. So, we need to be able to adapt our offerings and the illustration capabilities for this huge market and this audience. And the only way that in some cases we're going to get the products in front of these consumers or potential consumers, is if we translate our current capabilities into serviceable applications in those formats.
Okay. Several people have asked me this question, if they can get a copy of the presentation, and yes, they can. We are going to have it on our website, and we'll send an email to all the attendees after it's posted. And here's a question for Tom. Was there a notable difference in some questions responses between Canada and the USA?
That's a good question. We did see many of the same challenges and mentioned between the carriers. There wasn't much of a difference there, but the most notable difference was in the budget priority being given to illustration capabilities. Almost all of the Canadian carriers plan to increase their illustration spending significantly, and that is probably most likely due to the need for those carriers to meet new tax regulations around exempt testing that have been introduced for this year in Canada. And they're looking to replace their systems because the effort to enhance and upgrade their in-house solutions is both complex and expensive. So my conclusion there is that they're considering replacement rather than actually upgrading their current systems for that reason, for being driven by the tax regulations. Okay,
and Tom, I have one more question for you. We've had several people ask the time frame of the survey. Maybe you could explain that a little bit.
Okay, yes. As with most research partner program surveys, we reach out to several of our CIO members of our research council. So the survey was conducted mainly in the third quarter last year, so toward the end of the summer and into the fall, and the report was developed around that time frame. We, of course, didn't want to do a webinar at the end of the year to have the opportunity to reach a better audience in the spring rather than during that busy end of year time. So the data is very current and was very consistent with advisory calls that we've had over the last year.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're going to need to wrap it up in a minute. We're getting kind of towards the end of our allocated time. So I want to thank our speakers, Tom and Dennis, today. And we also thank our members for taking the time to attend this webinar. And as I mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the LOMA website in the near future. You'll be able to find it on the Information and Knowledge Base section of the LOMA website under Webinars. And again, we'll send everybody an email when it is posted. So thank you, everybody, and have a good day.